our food doesn't have zinc. In England, the kids in in England and America, schools are dangerous places to be. In US, they shoot each other. In the UK, they threaten the teacher. So there's an organic chef who's Jamie Oliver, and he said, I'm going to introduce organic food into the schools, and he managed to get a big grant, as famous chefs do. And within a few months, all these violent kids became very calm. Turns out magnesium deficiency has a very big role to play in attention deficit and agitation. And when you have enough magnesium, you can pay attention. Now, these are new findings. We're just waking up to it. We are very quick at messing up our food, but it takes a long time to find out what went wrong. We're very quick at messing up our ecosystems. Look at the landslide in Pune. Bulldozers and JCBs in those fragile mountains. But it takes a long time to figure out what went wrong and how to set it right. There is an easier and better way. And that easier and better way is, first and foremost, to recognize that 10,000 years of growing food and a culture of food means things have been tested. I don't think there's any other society in the world that has as much diversity in its food base. You know, the Italians had about 8 things they eat. Zucchini, tomato, they got a UNESCO Heritage Award. Our Indian Culture Ministry doesn't get organized. I said, you know, your Marathis and the beautiful khakra and everything, every part of India would be eligible for a UNESCO heritage. And maybe that's an aspect of work you all can do. But not only is it that you have to trust it, we know. A simple Indian thali from any part of India, it could be Bengal, it could be Kashmir, it could be South India, it could be Maharashtra. Any single thali has at least 50 plant sources in it. You add the masalas, you add the dals, you add the chawals, you add the rotis, add the greens, add the haldi. No other culture has so much knowledge, so much diversity, and we are frittering it away for poison drinks and toxic chips. And we are allowing advertisement to make our children feel the smart thing to do is kill yourself. Because these kids are becoming obese. The kids are getting type 2 diabetes at 7 years old in Delhi. 20-year-old kids are getting heart attacks, hypertension. That's not the way to live. Now, healthy food is not a luxury. Healthy food is a precondition of life, and that's why I talk about Anna Swaraj. That's the basis, and it's for your generation. Because your generation that's been targeted. You know, we get so used to good food, we're not going to get tempted by junk. But you are the generation being targeted, and you are the generation, as the Vice Chancellor said, the generation that has to change things. And when things will change in India, things will change worldwide. Not only because we are very large in numbers, but we are very large in numbers with most of our numbers being young, your age. But your age can either take blindly the throwaway waste and junk of the West, or, as your campus prayer began, tap the best wisdom of our society and take it further, add to it all the new knowledge that you're getting in your campus. And more than that, add to it experiential knowledge that you don't get on the campus. I was talking with the principal about how I would be more than happy to explore ways in which Navdanya in Dehradun, Navdanya in Maharashtra, can be a place where your learning can deepen and your voluntarism can contribute too. But one of the immediate issues you can do when you go back home is an idea that came up, and I think you can participate in it without too much effort. All of you are digital addicts. All of you are selfie addicts. Take a selfie with whoever gives you food. If it's your mother, take a selfie with her. Say thank you to her. Put it up on the Seed Freedom website, seedfreedom.in. It'll have a section on actions. And if there's a problem, you can ask Sugandaji to write to me and I will contact my colleagues. If it's your mother, your maid, your aunt, whoever gives you good food, say a thank you, appreciate them, and appreciate all our Annadatas. If we can do that, then India will be the superpower we all dream of. Thank you. I should stay here for questions.
Yeah. Few years back, there was this Hyderabad laboratory which found out suicidal genes in certain seeds. The seeds were supplied from a foreign country. And they discovered, it was denied by the country, but our scientists in Hyderabad laboratory, they found that there was a suicidal gene put in those seeds. Can you just tell something about it?
So there is the commercialization of a technology which has been named the Terminator technology. There are not just patents on it, it was actually being attempted to be commercialized, and if it exists anywhere, it's illegal because the Convention on Biological Diversity has banned it. How does this Terminator technology for creating suicidal genes work? At the time when the embryo is forming, and interestingly, the patent is not for seed. The patent is for any living system, which means it could be used as a sterilization technique. When the embryo is forming in any organism, it could be in the seed, it could be in a human being, it could be in a cow. At that point, through genetic engineering, the plant releases, as is in the patent language, a lethal toxin to kill the embryo. So in fact, I was thinking of that when we were being served the lovely moong sprouts. I was saying, if this had been terminated, there wouldn't be sprouts. Because in a terminated technology, in suicidal genes, you'll get a wheat harvest, but that wheat will not germinate because it's now sterile. And the idea, as I said, was to make every farmer buy seed every year. But they're not able to do enough genetic engineering in all crops, and not every country has allowed them to have patents. I've worked very hard that our patent amendment does not allow biological processes to be recognized as inventions. That's Article 3J of our amended Patent Act. Just like there's an Article 3D that says slight modification in an old formulation of a medicine will not be counted as an invention. Just yesterday I had relatives who came in for cancer treatment. If you know anyone, and I'm sure every one of you knows someone who has cancer, every month it's 1 to 2 lakhs of expenditure. And that's when we still have generic drugs. What Novartis had wanted was to sell a drug for 1.5 lakhs a month, which is available for 10 rupees of treatment a month in the generic option. And in the courts, when the hearing was taking place, their lawyer said, when the judge said, but most Indians can't afford this. He said, we are only thinking about 15% of India as our market. That the rest don't count. So the 3J prevents it, and that's why to bypass all these impediments they're facing, to try and seek monopoly, they want to create sterile seed. So you've got to buy seed every year. Like I said, legally it's banned through a very major mobilization we had. But a lot of, I get news from Bundelkhand. Our plant didn't germinate. Or a bean will form and there'll be not a single pod in it. So there are all kinds of rupturing taking place because there's a lot of experimentation going on. And some of my scientific friends say, that while they're not selling terminator technology seeds directly, they can be using these for creating male sterile lines for hybrids. Sadly, what these companies have managed to do is hide from governments what they're doing. Now, the Seed Act, Seed Policy of 1988 gave these companies the right to hold back, withhold information. And what were the parent lines? One, Bhopal disaster, my sister was in the relief operations, and they are asking Union Carbide, can you tell us what gas has leaked so that we can find the antidote? You know what the Carbide headquarters said? Sorry, it's a trade secret. On the GMO issue, the courts had ruled that the government must put on the website all details of applications, what are the tests that have been done, and who made what decision. It was happening till a few months ago. Suddenly there's nothing on the website. There's a big thing going on. The companies are saying it's our trade secret. How can it be your trade secret when it affects lives? Anything with an ecological and social implication cannot be your intellectual property. Anything with social and ecological information is your responsibility to share. And more than that, every right, like intellectual property or land or whatever, is a negotiated right. It's a contract. Society says, I'm willing to give this right in exchange for a social good, a public benefit. Now, in this case, you're getting a right of monopoly, then you're getting a right of secrecy, you're getting a right to harm, and you're saying, I'll kill you, but I won't tell you how I killed you. And I'm not saying, this is not a joke. I was called to Hawaii last year, and then after my trip, the movements became very strong. Hawaii, as you know, is islands. And therefore, Monsanto and other companies use these islands to make GM seed to avoid contamination of their seed. They're happy to contaminate other people's seed, but their seed shouldn't get contaminated. And then they spray poisons. So these planes come, and there's a cancer epidemic on the island of Kauai. After a lot of struggle, the citizens got the council to pass a law that these companies should inform people what are they spraying. Bayer, one of the companies, has sued the council and said, we won't tell you what we are spraying. We won't tell you how you're killing you. So, when I say beat Swaraj, under Swaraj, I'm not saying it trivially. Swaraj at this time really means the ability of citizens to know what's in their food, to choose their food with full information, and it's the sovereignty of countries to be free of literally, I would call them 5 chemical criminals. They're the companies that made war chemicals, then they made those war chemicals agrochemicals, then, as I mentioned, 87, they're talking about owning the seed, but their history is making chemicals that kill. They're still only able to do that. They can only make chemicals that kill. Now the chemicals are being put into plants through genes and into our food through genetic expression. But it's still producing poisons. Bt is a toxin. So it's a very serious issue, this whole issue of the terminator.
Excuse me, ma'am, we've got an online question from Ganesh Wes College. They want to know more about organic Bhutan.
Okay, yeah. So it used to be the case that most areas that were hilly and most areas that were dry were organic anyway, because chemicals required a lot of irrigation. The Himalayas started to get a bit of chemicals. About 30% of Bhutan has chemicals more in the agriculture bordering Assam. The last Prime Minister of Bhutan, Jigme Thinley, wrote to me and said, can you help us go 100% organic? And that's partly because Bhutan does not measure GDP. They don't have an economic indicator called GDP. What they measure is well-being, the same thing that was in, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, yeah, let all beings be